What's up, friends? Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. In this video today, I'm so excited because I'm gonna be talking about some of my go-to thriller authors. If you know me, you know that I'm a huge thriller reader. Although I do read all genres, I'd say thriller is probably what I binge read the most. And I have gone through so many different authors. I have spontaneously read so many just new to me authors and books to try to find the ones that like really resonate with me, and I'm gonna share them all with you today. I have some popular authors, I have some indie authors, I have some authors that I think deserve so much more hype that you might not have heard of before, and every single one of these that I talk about is the same situation. I read one of their books, proceeded to binge their entire backlist, loved them all, and now they are an auto-buy author for me. So let's get right into it. The first one I have to share is Charlie Donlea. This is an author who I do feel like has gotten a little bit more notice and hype in the book world on social media, but I still feel like he is very underrated. And he has several books. Every single one of these is a banger. Charlie Donlea writes books that are somewhat procedural. There's always some sort of case that needs to be solved. The way he sets up his books is kind of timeline jumpy, and it's done in a way where like I just don't think someone who works on normal brainwaves can pull this off in the way that he does. It's absolutely genius. He's so good at it. One of my absolute favorites from him is Don't Believe It. This follows a woman who is in prison in a foreign country. She was arrested for the murder of her boyfriend while they were there on spring break for a wedding. She has been in this jail for 10 years and still claims that she's innocent. And she reaches out to a woman named Sydney who does documentaries and is begging her to look into her case and do a documentary on it. So that's what we're following in this story. It is incredible. I love this book. Guess Again is his newest release, and if you have seen anyone review this book, you know that it is a masterpiece. This book follows a former detective named Ethan who left the force and is now in med school, but he is asked by an old friend to come back for just one more case, to help on one more case, and if he can't uncover any details, then nobody can. This is fast-paced, this is high stakes, this is cat and mouse, this is absolutely shocking, and the way it follows several different characters on different timelines and ties them all together is a masterpiece. I always describe Charlie Donlea's books as a spider web. He has all of these different like branches of the story, but they all root back to that same center of the plot, and the way they all tie in, nobody can do it like he can. I'm stumbling over my words because he's so good. In Long Time Gone, we follow Sloane, who is an intern. I'm pretty sure it's in forensic pathology, I think. And one of the assignments that she gets is to look into like the ancestry websites. So she submits her own DNA to help with this assignment and finds out that she is actually a missing child from years ago. This is so good. Then we have Those Empty Eyes. This book is insane. The twist in this is insane. This one follows, it's a girl who, when she was younger, someone broke into her home and brutally killed her entire family, but she managed to escape. Later, she was accused as the one who did the killings, and it was just this whole thing. She has since changed her name, she has changed her appearance, and she's trying to like move on from that, but the past is coming up again. The twist at the end of this book still shocks me when I think of it. The Girl Who Was Taken follows a woman whose younger sister went missing when they were kids, and so because of that, she went to school to be a forensic pathologist so that one day when her sister's body was recovered, she can be the one to perform the autopsy and know exactly what happened to her sister. This one is so badass. Honorable mentions for him, we have The Suicide House, which was really good, Summit Lake, which I also loved, and 20 Years Later, which I loved. This was my very first one that started this whole spiral. I will read anything this author writes. The next one is gonna come as a surprise to absolutely no one, because if you've been around any of my social media platforms at any point in time, you will have seen me rave about Tiffany D. Jackson. She is the queen of thrillers. I'm pretty sure the very first one I ever read from her was The Weight of Blood, and this is a Stephen King Carey retelling, but this book centers around racism, and the main character is a young black girl. That's really all you kind of need to know about this one. However, I highly recommend this book on audio. As a matter of fact, I do recommend all of her books on audio. She always has a killer narrator, but this one for sure needs to be done on audio. This was 5-star perfection, and it started my entire spiral with this author. The next one I read from her was Monday's Not Coming. This book will forever live rent-free on my brain. I stared at the wall for like 10 solid minutes eating ice cream after I finished this book. This follows a young girl who over the summer she did not get to see or hear from her best friend very much, and now school is starting back up again. She is so excited to get back in that school and see her best friend. However, she goes there on the first day of school and her friend is not there, and all of her all of the teachers, all of her family members, and all of her other friends are just sweeping it under the rug like it's nothing to be concerned about, but she is very concerned for the well-being of her friend. This book is amazing, okay? You guys just really need to read that one. Tiffany D. Jackson's newest release is The Scammer. This one just came out last month. This book was so damn good. It made me feel all the emotions. Tiffany D. Jackson really has a way with her writing of bringing emotion into the story, which I'm a sucker for, but she does it in a way that is just so vivid and so raw that despite the fact that we're reading thrillers, they always make me emotional, and she always writes about like real life events and real life things that are going on that are constantly swept under the rug, and I feel like she makes it a point to put those things into her stories and shed light on them, which I love. This one follows a girl in college who goes back to her dorm room one day and finds one of her roommate's brothers is just sleeping on their sofa. He was recently released from prison and has nowhere else to stay, so he's just kind of staying with them. But this guy is charming, charismatic, and really has like this shady vibe going on. He is gaining followers on campus as he indoctrinates them with his strange beliefs. And this story takes several wild turns. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. She doesn't miss. Allegedly, this one follows a young girl who's in what they call baby jail. It's like a juvenile detention center for younger kids who have done bad things. Young Mary has been accused of allegedly murdering a baby. Not just any baby though, a white baby, and Mary is a young black girl. This book will absolutely shock you. I loved the ending of this. You just have to read it. Then we have Blood in the Water by Tiffany D. Jackson. Despite it being middle grade and me being well into my 30s, I read this in one sitting and I ate it up. This one's kind of like a young murder mystery. Excuse my dog barking in the background. It follows a girl who is gonna go spend the summer reluctantly with some family friends who are very wealthy and prestigious. Totally not her vibe, and a body is found in the water. Then we have Grown. I'm not sure I would necessarily classify this one as a thriller, but it is extremely emotional and deals on some very tender topics. This is about a young girl who becomes dazzled by a celebrity star who kind of takes her under his wing against her parents' wishes, and there's a lot of grooming involved in this story. This one is very, like I said, emotional, but it's also very eye-opening, and she just doesn't miss. This was extremely well done. White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. This one I would have to say is my least favorite of hers, although it's still a great book. This one is YA and has haunted house vibes where her family move into like this really strange community and they're given a house for free, and the house is kind of weird, but also the inhabitants of the city are really weird as well. This one has good mysterious vibes. Lastly, we have Let Me Hear a Rhyme by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I have to say this is her most unspoken about book. Is that a word? I'm not sure, but I don't see anyone ever speaking about this book, and it's my favorite one of hers. It's near and dear to my heart because it takes place in Brooklyn in 1998, and so many of the vibes that are inside of this book are similar to my childhood. I grew up in New York City in the 90s, and this book just it did something to me. Like, it really connected with this. Inside the book, it's described as Tiffany D. Jackson's ode to hip-hop, friendship, and Brooklyn, and honestly, that's just so accurate. It takes place during the time that Biggie Smalls was killed, and you follow a group of friends, one of whom is killed on the streets, and he was an aspiring artist, so his friends end up taking his music and getting him noticed. Despite the fact that he's gone and passed away, they want to bring him fame and they want to lift up his memory and kind of get justice for everything that was taken away from him and everything that he missed out on because of his life ending early. Guys, this book is so emotional. It was so incredibly well done. This is another one that I highly recommend the audiobook for. It is brought to life in the audiobook narration. I love this book. This one holds a very special place in my heart. Tiffany D. Jackson will not only get my money every single time she releases a book, but I will be pre-ordering it and I will be stalking the calendar and counting down the days. She is my favorite. This next author is more of a smaller author, kind of an indie author, but also he has been getting more and more notice with his books. And I am so happy because I know that eventually he's just going to take off and be one of the bigger names, and that is going to be Caleb Stevens. One thing about Caleb Stevens' books that I have noticed is every single time he's gonna deliver a very memorable story. The first book that I ever read from him is still to this day one of my absolute favorites. You've probably seen me talk about this one before. It's The Girls in the Cabin, and this book is a wild ride and it's honestly just unforgettable. It follows a father and his two daughters. The mother has recently passed away and he wants to rekindle the relationship he has with his girls. They go out on a camping trip together, and on the trip an accident occurs. One of the girls breaks her leg and a storm is rolling in. They need to find refuge immediately and they stumble across a cabin out in the middle of nowhere thinking that it's going to be a refuge, and it's just the beginning of a nightmare. Although this book is classified as a thriller, it 100% borderlines on horror because there are some absolutely shocking things that happen in this book, but it's one that will stick with you forever. The writing in this I felt like was super well done. It jumped back and forth between the history of one of the characters inside of the cabin as well as the current of what's going on with the father and his two girls. This is nail-biting, edge-of-your-seat craziness. Then we have Feeders by Caleb Stevens, which was recently rebranded and republished to now it's called What Waits Below. However, it is the same book, and I will say that I would kill for him to make this into some sort of duology or trilogy. I think this story could continue and still be absolutely fabulous. This story follows a girl who is kidnapped by her own father who just escaped from prison, and he is crazy. He believes that this end of the world apocalypse style of thing is about to go down, and the reason why he escaped is so that he could take her, capture her, and bring her to his bunker that he has prepared for this for years, and it's very crazy. We follow that story, and it's just one of those stories that's unforgettable. Then we have If You Lie by him. This one is a cruise ship cult vibes thriller. It's about a girl who has not spoken to her sister in a really long time. Suddenly she reaches out and invites her to come with a group of her friends onto this, not necessarily a cruise ship, I think it's more of a private yacht that is like for the elite. And so she takes the opportunity to join and she goes, and some crazy things go down. Lastly, we have his newest release. This is called You'll Never Know, and this is one of the best thriller books I have ever read. I do believe that going into the story knowing as little as possible is the most fun and shocking way to do it. So I'll just tell you that it is about a man named Grant and his wife who are getting ready to go on a hike when his wife is tragically abducted right in front of him. They then proceed to give Grant a trail of clues to follow and riddles to solve in order to get her back. This is a damn good book, guys. This, depending on when you're watching this video, it's not releasing until November 18th, but this book is worth every second of the wait. Trust me on this. If you take one book recommendation from me at all, let it be this one. The next author I have is an indie author who's probably the least known author of the bunch, and it is a shame because I have loved every single one of these books except for one. Disclaimer, there's only one that I haven't read, but this is J.M. Cannon, and on the very top here, this one is Jordan Cannon. This is just a different pen name, all the same author. J.M. Cannon writes some of the best psychological thrillers I've ever read, and I have to say that each one of her plots are also super memorable because they are all very unique. The first book I ever read from this author was Blood Oranges, and this book was such a shocker to me. I wasn't sure what I was gonna think about it. To be honest, I do think the cover is not nearly as eye-catching as it needs to be for this story. However, this book blew me away. It follows two separate situations. The first is they discover a body hidden in an underground bunker on an orange field. On the second side, we follow a very wealthy family. The mother is like this very popular televangelist, and her youngest daughter has vanished from her home. Nobody knows where this little girl has gone, but the mother is suspiciously trying to like keep up appearances with the church, and she doesn't seem to be giving the disappearance of her daughter the attention that it deserves. These two stories connect in a way that is just mind-blowing. I loved this book. Then we have a psychological thriller duology from this author. It starts with This Family Lies. This is one of my favorites of all time, and it ends with This Blood Runs, which was equally as good, to be honest. This follows a woman named Iris who is with her husband in their southern Louisiana home in the middle of the night when there's a break-in and someone comes and shoots them both point blank in the head. However, she survives. She does wake up with some memory loss, and she now has to go and live with her husband's very prestigious, wealthy family while she recovers, but she can't remember a thing, and it's obvious that they are not telling her the truth and they are 100% keeping secrets from her. This duology is fantastic. Girl in the Dark is the one that I have not yet read from this author. I need to get to it soon, but like, I don't want the books to end. Once I read that, I'll have read them all, and I'm not ready for that yet. The most recent release is this, and I loved this book. It's called The Perfect Neighbors, and this one follows a woman who moves into a house on a quiet street. She really wants to mind her own business, but she ends up kind of becoming acquainted with the next door neighbors, who are a very wealthy family that have a lot of drama going on. She ends up becoming very wrapped up in their crazy shenanigans and not sure how to see her way out of it. However, she can't like bring herself to stay away either because the drama is just too good. I was so invested in this book, and the plot twist in this one literally blew me away. The last one is The Quiet Wife by J.M. Cannon. This one, there's a lot going on in this book. It's hard to explain, but basically the main character is married and she's always been an aspiring journalist, but she's never really had like that big break of a story until she catches wind of it and wants to go and pursue it. So there is a community out in the Colorado mountains, and it's made for people who want to escape from like the technology of the world and the craziness and changes of the world, and they just want to live that secluded lifestyle with a small community. This community might somehow be connected to some disappearances that had been going on, and so now she is going to convince her husband that they should go buy a house and move into this community so that she can investigate. This is another one, honestly, where this twist just really blew me away. The next author should not come as a surprise to anyone because S.A. Cosby has hands down gotta be the king of thrillers. S.A. Cosby writes Southern noir, action-packed crime thrillers. They're gritty, they're fast-paced, and they're often like morally complex. His books are known for being incredibly cinematic. I'm pretty sure there are TV or movie adaptations in the works for almost all of these, but it should be in the works for all of them, to be honest. Razorblade Tears is probably his most popular, well-known book. This is the first one that I read from him, and it was incredible. This follows the story of two fathers, one black man and one white man, who are both ex-cons. Their gay sons were horribly murdered and did not at all receive justice, so these fathers are going to take matters into their own hands and get the revenge that their sons deserve. There's really no other way to describe this book aside from saying that it is both emotional and honestly incredible. This was such a great story. Blacktop Wasteland is probably one of his more underrated books. I don't see a lot of people talk about this one as much. This one follows a former getaway driver who now has a family of his own and has left that life behind, but after some financial struggles, he finds himself getting back into that scene. This one is full of tension and the classic action type crime thriller that S.A. Cosby is known for. All the Sinners Bleed is a darker book for sure. It follows a black sheriff in a small town where race kind of divides them as he's on the hunt for a serial killer, and so many just disgusting things are coming to light about the crimes in this very small southern town. Then we have King of Ashes. This is his newest release, and this is another book that was just an absolute masterpiece. I have to say I think this one is my favorite of his. It follows a man named Roman who has not been back to his hometown to see his family in a very long time. He runs a successful business a few states away, but he gets a call that his father has been in an accident. He rushes back home to find that his younger brother has gotten himself tangled up with some bad people in some really bad things, and he has to now dig his little brother out of this situation. I'd say this one is his most action-packed, with a very sinister-like ending that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. This book literally just takes you on a wild ride. This one leveled up just a little bit. It took it up a notch in both the action, the emotion. This book was just great. His last one is My Darkest Prayer, another one that doesn't get as much hype as I feel like it should. This is another small town thriller that follows Nathan. He was a former sheriff's deputy, but now he works as a funeral home director. However, when the town's very beloved pastor is found murdered, a lot of people in the town really want him to investigate it because things are just not adding up. As he investigates, things get really complicated in this one. Lots of secrets come to light. This one has a really dark, heavily atmospheric vibe that is unforgettable. Another author that I absolutely love to read is Shanora Williams. And Shanora Williams writes in several different genres, but her thrillers are some of my favorite thrillers. I honestly feel like she is so talented. She's more of like the psychological thriller genre, and to be able to write within so many different genres and honestly nail it every time is so impressive to me. The first book that I ever read from her was The Wife Before. This is about a woman who meets a pro golfer and develops a relationship with him despite the fact that he was once accused in the public eye of being the cause of his previous wife's early death. She happily settles into her new fancy lifestyle in his lush mansion and is enjoying all of these new luxuries of life until she comes across his past wife's old journals. And shit hits the fan. One thing about a Shanora Williams book is that the twist will get you every single time, and that is more true than ever in this book, The Other Mistress. This is about a woman who thinks she has a perfectly happy marriage until she discovers that her husband has not just one mistress, but two mistresses. This book is absolutely wild. She comes up with a plan to get the first mistress on board with her so that together they can team up to come at the other mistress. This book is just crazy. You will never, ever, ever see this twist coming, I can promise you. Whispers of the Lake is her newest one. This is more of like a missing persons type of book. The main character's ex-best friend has just gone missing, and it's very suspicious, very unlike her. Ex-best friend is key because this girl did some pretty messed up things to become an ex-best friend in the first place. However, Rose can't help but to go out and look for her anyway. So she goes to her last known location to investigate and see what she can find. I loved this book. This one was so atmospheric. Then we have The Perfect Ruin by Shanora Williams. This is a revenge story like no other. This book is so good. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I love a revenge story. And then we have The Bitter Truth. This one is about a woman who's married to a man in politics. And all along his campaign trail, they're starting to notice the same mysterious woman keeps showing up. Her husband is acting very strange and very paranoid, but she cannot get answers from him, so she's gonna go get answers on her own. Shanora Williams is currently working on a new thriller, and whatever it is and whenever it comes out, I will drop everything and read it immediately. The last author that I have is someone who does not have as many books as the other, but I wish that she did. It is Kia Abdullah, and I love everything that I've read from her. I have 4 books here, and I do believe that there is another book that has been released. I can't think of the title right now. However, everything that she writes is awesome. She does courtroom thrillers, which I'm a sucker for. And that's what we have here. The first one is Next of Kin. This is the twistiest book I may have ever read. This one caught me in a twist like 6 times. That's an exaggeration, but maybe it was more like 3. This one follows a woman named Layla who was asked if she can drop off her baby nephew at daycare on her way to work one morning. When she gets to the office and one thing after another happens, it's a very busy work day. It's not until hours later when she gets a call saying that the baby was never dropped off, and that is when she realizes that she forgot about him in the car. This is an absolute tragic and hard to read story because she finds herself on trial for the baby's murder. This right here is definitely one of my top thrillers ever though. This is so good, and like I said, those twists, you will not see them coming. Perfectly Nice Neighbors is one that deals with an absolutely insane, crazy neighbor, some tension that goes on between them, and also a lot of passive-aggressive racism. This one is about an Asian family that buys and moves into their dream home. But when her son puts out a Black Lives Matter banner out front, she one day spies the neighbor coming over and ripping it down. This essentially starts a war between these neighbors, and it is not pretty. This is a great book. Then we have these 2 books. The first one is Take It Back, and the second one is Truth Be Told. These follow the same characters. You have to read this one before you read this one, or else you won't really get the full story. But this book follows a young 16-year-old girl named Jody who suffers from facial deformities. She is accusing 4 of her classmates of rape, and these 4 boys come from Muslim families in the community who are known for being very upstanding citizens. Zara is the main character that we follow, and she works at a sexual assault center, so she's dealing with Jody's case, and she is also Muslim. So the community sees her defending Jody as if she is going against like her own religion and beliefs. This one deals a lot with race, obviously, and also social justice. The courtroom scenes in this are really fantastic. This is actually a short book, but I feel like this is just packed. This is just such a good book, and then after you read that, you can read this because it continues kind of the story. Although it's different, it still mentions a lot that went on in the first book. Kia Abdullah does not miss. I will read and buy anything that she writes. I need to look into that other book. So there we have it. These are my tried and true thriller authors. These are the authors that I trust, that I rely on to deliver me a damn good story, and they don't miss. They never fail. These authors nail it every single time. These are the ones that I recommend the most. These are the books that I talk about the most. You cannot go wrong with picking up any one of these books that were mentioned in this video. If you've never read any of these authors, I hope that something in this video inspired you to do so. And if you do read and end up loving any one of these books or authors, please come back and let me know because I love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.